Hey everyone, welcome. So, if you're building on Google Cloud Platform, how do you actually know if your whole DevOps thing is getting any better? Today, we're going to dive into how one team used DORA metrics to completely transform their performance, all on GCP.
All right, let me ask you something. Does your team ever feel like you're just constantly shipping code? You're always busy, but you have no idea if you're actually getting faster or more stable? You know that feeling, right? Kind of like you're flying blind, just pushing out features without a clear map of your own process.
So, to make this all a bit more real, let's talk about a team. A very typical, really hardworking team on GCP. You know the type. They were deploying services, squashing bugs, and definitely putting in the hours. But their deployments, man, they were these stressful, late-night events, and things were failing in production a little too often for comfort. And that, right there, was the big question they were facing. They felt productive, because hey, they were always working, but the results just weren't matching the effort. They didn't have the data to see where the bottlenecks were, or to know if the changes they were trying were actually helping. It's like they were stuck on a treadmill, just reacting to fires instead of getting ahead.
And then bam, they had this light bulb moment, the DORA metrics. Now, these aren't just some random KPIs somebody made up. They are 4 industry standard metrics that are proven to measure how effective and stable a team is. Think of them like the 4 vital signs for your entire engineering process.
Okay, so first up, we have deployment frequency. It's pretty simple. How often do you successfully get code into production? You know, the elite teams, they're deploying multiple times a day. And this isn't just about being busy for the sake of it. It's really a measure of your team's rhythm, your ability to get value out to users quickly and consistently.
All right, next up we have lead time for changes. Now, this is the time it takes from the moment a developer commits a piece of code to that code actually running live in production. This one is so critical because it shows you the true efficiency of your entire pipeline, from an idea in someone's head to a real thing helping your users.
Now let's talk stability, the change failure rate. This one is huge. It basically asks what percentage of our deployments break something in production that we then have to go and fix. A high rate here means you're just constantly introducing instability. It's the bottom line on the quality you're actually shipping.
And, when things do go wrong, and let's be honest, they always will at some point, how fast can you bounce back? Well, that's exactly what time to restore service measures. This metric is a massive indicator of how resilient your system is and how good your team is at handling incidents when the pressure's on.
Now, this is my favorite part of the story. The team realized they didn't need to go out and buy some fancy, expensive new platform to get started. They could begin approximating these metrics by, just using the GCP tools they already had. No new budget needed. Let's see how they pulled it off. And they really took this idea to heart. Look, the point wasn't to have these perfectly scientific, super accurate numbers on day one. Nope. The goal was just to get a baseline, any baseline, a starting point they could measure against. Just getting started was the most important thing. So you're probably wondering, how did they actually do it? Well, it was pretty straightforward. First, they just started digging into their cloud build and cloud deploy logs to get deployment frequency and timing. Second, they connected Git commit hashes to each of those deployments so they could figure out lead time. And third, they started tagging incidents in their issue tracker to link failures back to specific deploys. Simple, right? But incredibly effective. Okay, and this is where it all pays off. Armed with this new data, the team went from this feeling of constant chaos, firefighting all the time, to having real clarity. They could finally make decisions based on data, not just gut feelings.
And their first look at the data was, it wasn't pretty. Their lead time for changes was measured in weeks. Think about that. Weeks to get a simple change out to users. And their change failure rate? A whopping 25%. 1 out of every 4 times they pushed code, something broke. Ouch. So the data was screaming one thing at them. The problem was their architecture. They had all these tightly coupled services and shared bottlenecks. It meant a tiny change in one spot could cause a huge, unpredictable problem somewhere else. So the single biggest thing they did was focus on decoupling their services.
And just look at the results. It's incredible. After they started decoupling things, their lead time for changes just plummeted. What used to take them weeks now only took a couple of hours. That is a game changer. You go from a process that takes weeks to shipping things in the same afternoon.
And it wasn't just about speed. The impact on stability was just as huge. By making changes smaller and reducing how much one service depended on another, their change failure rate dropped from that risky 25% all the way down to a much, much healthier 4%. Basically, they could finally ship code with confidence instead of crossing their fingers and hoping for the best.
So, what can we all take away from this team's story? The biggest lesson here is that DORA metrics aren't just numbers on a dashboard for management. They're tools that help you take real, meaningful action. And if you remember one thing from all of this, let it be this. Your DORA metrics aren't just numbers. They are an outcome. They're a direct reflection of your architecture and your processes. You see, you can't just fix the metric. You have to fix the system that's creating that metric in the first place. So, what's your game plan? How can you start doing this? First, always remember, your metrics reflect your architecture. Second, just start with the tools you already have on GCP. Third, build some simple dashboards so everyone can see the progress. And finally, and this is the most important part, hold regular reviews to look at the data and decide, as a team, what to improve next. At the end of the day, these metrics, they tell a story about your team, your capabilities, and the health of your system. They show you exactly where you are right now, and they point the way to where you could be. So the real question is, what story are you going to write next?